All right, so the mother of this Michigan school shooter on the stand today, we've been watching this throughout the day, defending herself, describing a time that she tried to get help for her son, Ethan Crumbley. Let's watch.
One time when he was talking about what he wanted to do for his future, I don't know, he was feeling really down about it and stressed. My husband did call his school counselor to try to talk to him because they do a lot of future academic planning with the tech school.
Was that a mental health issue?
No, it was more or less addressing what was upsetting my son at that time.
All right, so that's Jennifer Crumbley, and she's facing 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter in the shooting, 2021 school shooting, Oxford High School. It could be the first time a parent is held responsible if she's convicted for a shooting committed by a child. So let's talk to Rachel Kugel about it. Trial attorney joins us live right now. Kind of interesting the way that was phrased because, at different times during her testimony today, Jennifer basically said that she had not noticed really any issues, mental health related issues with her son, and even there at the end said, well, yeah, I called the school counselor once, but it wasn't related to that. What did you make of it?
Right. I mean, I think the point is that, a lot of people can be responsible when something horrible happens, right? And we're armchair quarterbacking it. We know the bad, horrible thing that happened. And we're now looking at it with 20/20 hindsight at all the steps along the way where something could have changed, someone could have intervened. But that's not the question here, right? The question here is whether she knew the likelihood that he would do something so violent and so terrible. And I think that's what this comes down to. This line of questioning is about pointing out that, yeah, I mean, he had problems. He had sort of the typical teenager stuff that all of us as parents kind of expect to deal with. And that there was nothing that was so surprisingly out of the ordinary that would make this thing rise to the level of criminal responsibility, which is what we're talking about here, right? We're not talking about a money judgment or civil damages. We're talking about the loss of life, liberty, freedom, the highest thing that can be taken away from one in this country. So this is serious stuff that the state is doing in an unprecedented way.
What about the idea they kept, and it was the defense, right, that brought up her personal life and extramarital affairs there. Do you understand why that would be the case or what they were trying to get at today? That seemed like to me, at least when I was watching, they spent a decent amount of time on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of that has to do with, remember, the person with whom she had that affair testified, I think, yesterday. And so I think part of that is about, his why he may not have told everything to the police in his interview. Mm-hmm. Originally, the jury wasn't going to hear that there was an extramarital affair, but then there arose questions about why he might not have given the full story. And I think they wanted it to be clear that the reason he didn't give the full story was because he was worried about an affair being uncovered and not because, he thought mm-hmm. that Jennifer was guilty of something.
Okay. Now, they seem to be, the defense at least, trying to paint Jennifer as, you were making this point, as normal as possible in terms of family, although she and the husband, even though they had problems in their marriage, she spoke to her son. Here's one other clip of her talking about the relationship. Let's watch.
We would talk, we did a lot of things together. I trusted him, and I felt like I had an open door and he can come to me about anything. I felt as a family where the 3 of us were really close.
Okay, the 3 of us are really close, but at the same time, they got him the gun. We know that there were warning signs, and some of this has been introduced, I believe, in evidence that may have been ignored. There were other signs, like the bank account. You had a few $1,000s at the bank account. They took it out right away. They took money out of their own bank accounts right after it happened. So there were actions afterwards and signs before that you could argue, led to this being, at least led to the indictment, led to the allegations that were made. So how do you bring it all together?
I mean, again, 20/20 hindsight, right? Now, remember, they could be not great parents, right? They could do things that you and I might look at and go, oh, my goodness, I would never do something like that or handle my kid that way or, et cetera. They could be crappy parents. They could be immoral, but that is very different than being a criminal. And that's what's, really important here is this isn't just about whether we think they're good or bad as parents, but whether they're criminal. And pretty much everything I've heard that they did here, none of it in and of itself was criminal. For example, having that weapon, buying that weapon, allowing the kid to use it, keeping it unstored, unlocked, all of those things are not crimes in their state. Now, if the legislature wants to go back and revisit it, so be it. But they didn't do anything criminal. And I think that is, a really important point here, that this is totally unprecedented and new. And I, as a defense attorney, am always cautious about broadening a prosecutor's power even in the face of, unspeakable tragedy that makes all of us want people to pay and want it to stop. We got to make sure that it's really the right way of going about it.
No, understood. And from that line that you don't think has been crossed yet into criminality, is that just apply, I assume it does, in this case to the mother, but I don't know how much you've started to look at the father and whether there might be distinctions, because he'll be tried later on, and maybe there's more. I mean, that's where he got the gun, right? Is there more risk for the father here than the mother?
Well, so the suggestion up to now has actually been, I think the suggestion has been that the mother's been more responsible in terms of, her sort of being more aware of what was going on with the kid. And they've sort of insinuated that along the way. Now, today we heard on her testimony that it was her position that the father was the one that was responsible for things like bullets and stuff like that. So she kind of pushed it over his direction. This is the first time, at least that I have heard that that piece of it. So it'll be interesting to see if in fact they're going to push it. But again, remember, not a crime in their state. Might be immoral, but not a crime. Okay,
so that, and again, that trial's still to come. The dad and Jennifer Crumbley might even go back and take the stand again today. They're in recess right now. Rachel, thank you for explaining all this, analysis of all this. We appreciate it. Good to see you.